Washburn guitars. Before Ola England started up Solar guitars, he used to play Washburns, and today that's what we're working on. We got our hands on an old Washburn Solar Flying V. It's going to be an awesome one, so you're going to want to check this one out. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and click the bell to be notified whenever a new episode drops. This is Trash to Thrash. For more than 20 years, I've been obsessed with guitars. From playing them, to working on them, to buying and collecting them, I've built quite the collection of awesome custom guitars. This season, I'll be rebuilding guitars sent in by fans of the show. I'll be rebuilding 14 guitars over 14 weeks, each with a unique and interesting backstory. I'll be refinishing, refretting, rewiring, whatever it takes to make these things into the guitars of their dreams. This is Trash to Thrash. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Trash to Thrash. I'm your host, Mark Murray, and today we're going to be working on a Washburn Solar Flying V. It's a signature model for Ola England before he started Solar guitars. So he used to have a signature model called the Solar Flying V through Washburn, but since then he started a new company called Solar. He has multiple models, and he says they're really guitars for everybody. They're not signature guitars for him, and they're made to be like more modern, sleek. This Washburn Solar is basically the exact same as the Solar Flying Vs that are out for sale now. This guitar was sent in to me by my customer David, who got the guitar when he was 14 years old, played it for a while, and then he decided to start modding it. He got in a little over his head trying to fill the neck pickup cavity and some of the knobs in, and now it's just been sitting around disassembled for a couple years. He saw Trash to Thrash and wanted to send it in to me. After a few emails back and forth, he shipped the guitar in, and we came up with a killer game plan for this thing. The guitar came in disassembled and partially sanded, so some of the beginning work is already done for us. But filling that neck pickup cavity is going to be a bit of a challenge because it's a process filling a neck pickup cavity. You think it's perfect, and then you come back after a couple days, and the filler you use sometimes shrinks down. The wood is not sanding at the same rate, so it's hard to get them level. It's a little bit of a tricky process. We'll also be opening up the bridge pickup hole a little more so we can fit in a rail hammer pickup. Alright, here's the whole plan for this Washburn Solar Flying V. First, we're going to finish filling the neck pickup cavity and filling the knob holes. Then we'll route out the bridge pickup cavity for a new, larger pickup, a hammer rail anvil. Next, we're going to throw down some neon green base paint. It's going to be the same neon green that I used for my alien blood. Then we're going to throw on the magic sauce, the black Crackle paint. That's right, this guitar is going alien blood neon green with black Crackle over it. Then we'll finish it off with some satin clear coat. You don't really see too many satin Crackle paint jobs, so this one's going to be unique. Then we'll reassemble the guitar with the bridge, the pickup, and some notes about this one is we're going to paint the back of the neck to match the guitar. We're also going to match the headstock, put a new Washburn logo on there, and we're going to block the tremolo. So it won't be able to move up and down anymore at all, but it'll have much better tuning stability, and you'll be able to change tunings on the fly, which you can't normally do with the standard floating Floyd Rose. As I always do, I handed this guitar off to my shop assistant Ryan, who finished disassembling it, organizing the parts, and sanding the guitar down. The owner of the guitar, David, already did some of the filling for the neck pickup cavity, but if you look close, there's some high spots and some low spots. So we started by filling the low spots, letting that dry, and then came back and sanded it all level. Like I said earlier, this is a tricky process because as the filler starts to dry, it'll settle in and it doesn't sand at the same rate as the wood next to it. Once it's nice and even, I give it a solid coat of flat black paint because it's a lot easier to see the imperfections with black paint. Really, gloss black would show the most imperfections, but matte paint dries a lot faster, and to keep the job moving quicker, I always use matte black paint for my base coats. Now it's been about a week since I sprayed the black base coats, and it's looking real even, so I'm giving it one final level sanding, just to make sure everything's going to be real smooth. When sanding like this, you have to keep in mind that there's wood and filler under there, and you don't want to be pushing too hard with your sandpaper because they do sand at different rates. Meaning if you push too hard on the filler, you're going to dig down and have to refill it again. So you have to be pretty good at sanding for this part, and also you have to be patient. Next, we're going to have to do a little bit of surgery, so we're going to prep the area. We're going to be installing a rail hammer pickup in the bridge, and that's a different shape than the stock pickup with a sharper corner, so we're going to have to do a little bit of routing to make it fit. This guitar doesn't use any type of pickup rings. The pickups are mounted direct into the body, so it's crucial that I keep this perfectly straight because this is going to be exposed up against the edge of the pickup. For a job like this, I reach for the Dremel tool because the Dremel is real easy to control. You can put smaller bits in it. A router is way too big in my opinion. That's way overkill, so we're going to stick with the Dremel here. Now the body is prepped and ready for its first color, some neon green. I know Washburn guitars from seeing Dimebag Darrell and Paul Stanley have signature models through them over the years, but I didn't know the company actually started back in 1864. Two businessmen named Lyon and Healy came together as an investment to create an instrument company. The Washburn name came from Lyon. His actual full name is George Washburn Lyon, so they started making George Washburn guitars. Around the early 1900s, they're actually credited for making the first dreadnought-sized acoustic guitar. They're an American company that's been around for 139 years at this point, which is insane. I didn't know that they had history that rich in this country. And in the 1980s, they were actually one of the top 3 brands of electric instruments, right behind Fender and Gibson. In the early 90s, Grover Jackson was running their production, and they were creating really nice instruments. Nowadays, not so much. They've shifted their production from Korea mostly to Indonesia and China, and they're really not one of the big players in the rock world anymore. The most well-known guitar player to use Washburn is probably Dimebag Darrell. As a teenager, he fell in love with Dean guitars. He loved the MLs. He actually met Dean Zielinski and they started to work together. But Dean Zielinski left guitar building to go build furniture. And Dean went downhill. They got sold, eventually went out of business, was revived. But during this time, Dimebag needed some new guitars. He needed something to tour with, and Washburn was there to take over. There was an endorsement deal. They wanted to put his name on a signature guitar, and Dimebag went with them. But Dean Zielinski returned to Dean eventually, and so did Dimebag because of that. Dimebag always felt a loyalty towards Dean and loved the quality of their builds. So when he came back to Dean, he said the reason he really came back was because of the quality. He wanted something built better than the Washburns were. Years later, Washburns built themselves back up into a credible brand again, and that's when they started building guitars like the Solar and endorsing all their newer artists. Currently, there's a big fight between Dimebag's estate and the Dean Company, and they've been going back and forth legally. It's kind of an ugly mess and a topic for another day. So now in the paint booth, we're putting on the first paint, the neon green Alien Blood base coats. I get a lot of questions about how to do Crackle paint, and there's a simple procedure it says on the can, and if you follow that, you should have some pretty good results. That's what I do. On this particular day, it was about 73 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a perfect painting temperature. It tells you on the side of the cans what the proper temperature that you should be spraying in, and it's usually between 50 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit. This is important because the dry time between coats is going to depend on the temperature outside. This guitar is a neck through, and as I said before, we're going to be painting the headstock and the back of the neck, so the entire guitar will be getting painted right now. For my base coats, I'll start with 3 coats of the neon green paint. You want to apply your next coats when the paint is tacky, but not dry and not wet. They call this flashing. When the paint's flashing, it's still sort of wet, so it's going to chemically bond with the other layers of paint we put on. I sprayed my second coat around 12:08, and then my third coat at about 12:16 p.m. Then you want to let this paint set up for about 45 minutes, as per the Montana paint can. Montana is the brand of Crackle I always use. Crackle can be a little bit unpredictable in my experience, but a rule of thumb seems to be that if you lay on the base coats real thick, you wait the proper time, and then you lay on one heavy coat of Crackle paint, that's your best bet for getting some nice thick Crackle. If you want finer Crackle lines, lay the base coats on a little lighter and lay the Crackle on a little lighter at the end. The can actually says that you can do multiple coats of Crackle paint if you're not achieving your desired effect, but I haven't found that a second coat of Crackle does really good. Most of the time it ends up drying weird and it'll become blotchy and it doesn't look good. If you have experience with Crackle paint and you have some tips, leave them down in the comments for me and all the other viewers to check out. I'll pin the best ones. Guys, I was born in 1986, which means I grew up with things like this. The original Super Mario Brothers, Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis, Spider-Man and the X-Men. I love all that stuff from the 80s and 90s, and I've started a second YouTube channel so I could share my passion for it. I've been a game collector and comic collector for years, and now I'm starting to bring it to you guys. So if you want to see me out there game hunting, buying deals, flipping stuff, playing video games, doing reviews of old games, then follow my second YouTube channel, Guitar Gamer. I also have an Instagram associated with it, and the links will be down in the description. So go check it out, give it a subscribe, go like the videos. I appreciate your guys' support, and now let's get back to Trash to Thrash. And after about 20 minutes, the Crackle's looking awesome. It's drying super nice. We got a nice tight Crackle pattern on this one. Before we painted the guitar, I took some measurements and some photos of the original logo, so I would have the exact placement and size for when we go to put the new one on, and we can make it as authentic looking as possible. There was a little bit of a debate as to whether we should do a white logo or a neon green logo or even a black logo. There's really no white on the guitar, but white made it pop the most. David and I kind of went back and forth, and we both thought that white would be the best choice. For the clear coat on this guitar, I used KBS Clear Diamond Finish in the satin sheen. I did 7 coats, which was a whole can, and I'm really happy with the product. It's my first time using it, and I liked it. While I've been doing all this work to the guitar, Ryan's been doing some other things behind the scenes, like making a set of covers for the guitar. One for the truss rod, one for the control cavity, and one for the rear springs. For this guitar, we used some black, white, black, 3-layered material like you'd use on a pickguard. I kind of had an idea with this, and we'll see if it works out in a minute. We always start by cutting out the basic shape on the bandsaw. Then Ryan files down the edges, makes them nice and smooth. The file does leave it a little rough, so then we'll take some sandpaper and sand down the edges. Truss rod covers can get a little bit tricky on a bandsaw because they're so small, so we'll use like a piece of wood or something to push the plastic through so we're keeping our fingers away from the blade. Because if you're going fast, your fingers can slip, and that can be very horrible. Just ask the 3-fingered woodshop teacher. Then the finishing step is to drill some holes for the screws to mount them, and run a countersink through them so that the screws will sit flush. Now that it's been a couple weeks since it's been painted, it's ready to be reassembled, so we'll start with the tuners up at the headstock. Then we'll mount the old Floyd Rose nut, but we're not going to be using the locks, we're just going to use the nut itself. Since this Floyd Rose is going to be completely blocked and not movable, we don't need to lock the nut ever. So the customer wants us just to use the nut without locks. Now we'll mount the claw that's going to hold the springs and attach the Floyd Rose. You may notice a black wire that's soldered to the claw that we're screwing in right now, and that's going to be the main ground that connects the strings to all the electronics. This is one of the main grounds on the entire guitar. If you're using active pickups, you actually remove that wire because they're internally grounded, but we're going to be using passive pickups on this guitar, so we need to reuse the tremolo ground wire. Now I'm installing the device that's going to stop the tremolo from moving. It's a pretty simple device, it just butts up against the tremolo block and stops it from pulling. Now this is something I don't like. Look at all the cracks in this piece of foam that was underneath the Floyd Rose. I keep this craft foam in stock just for replacing these. I pulled out the old one and I'm just going to trace it onto the new foam and cut it out. Sometimes when I'm rebuilding someone's guitar, there's little things that I just throw in for free. The customer David and I hadn't discussed this, but as I'm reassembling the guitar, this is standing out to me and it's not going to cost me very much. These little details are going to make the guitar look a lot nicer. This is another one of those things that I even considered doing in neon green, but I feel like this paint job's already flashy enough. It's going to start to look kind of cheesy if we add too many green accessories on there. This is another one of those things that David and I didn't discuss, but it's only going to take me about 20 minutes, and it's going to make the guitar look a lot better, so I'm happy to do it. To clean the frets, I use 4/0 steel wool, and it cleans them up real nice. You just want to make sure you don't do this with the electronics in the guitar. I actually go outside to do this. The steel wool kind of breaks apart, and little flakes of metal are all over the place, and if it gets on your pickup, it could actually short out the coils on your pickup and ruin it. So that's why I said you don't want to do this with the electronics in the guitar, and really, if you can go outside and do it, that's even better. With an air compressor, then you can blow everything off at the end, and you don't have any leftover pieces of the steel wool just stuck around. Now with the freshly cleaned fretboard and frets, we're back in the shop. Now it's ready to have the pickup wired in, the strings installed, and all the cool final assembly stuff. Here you can see a little preview of the truss rod cover. The white middle layer of the plastic looks really cool with the logo. That's the idea we were thinking of earlier that we thought would look really good, and look at that. That just looks awesome. Now the white really pulled everything together. But I am going to pull the truss rod cover back off because we're going to set the guitar up now. I want to take a minute real quick and let you guys know if you want to buy one of my creations, head over to guitarguts.com. There's a link right at the top that says guitars for sale, and I've got a few guitars up right now. I think there's 4 guitars at the time of this episode posting, and you can buy them right through my website. These are a couple of the guitars that are up on guitarguts.com for sale right now. There's also the Guitar Guts Signature Kill Switches and the Guitar Guts Signature Kill Boost Pedal. If you want to send your guitar in to get rebuilt by me and featured on the show, or if you want me to build you the guitar of your dreams, stay tuned to the end of the video. I'll explain it all there. The next thing to do was to mount the pickup, and then mounted the springs that are going to hold the bridge in. Then I shielded the cavity using copper. The next thing to do is going to be to wire it up, and Railhammer here supplied a card that tells you what each wire does and how to wire it up. And about 25 minutes later, the guitar is ready to be strung up. My customer David requested that I use Ernie Ball Mammoth Slinkies, which are 62 to 12 gauge. Insane. We'll be tuning this guitar to drop A sharp. After stringing the guitar up, I found a very unexpected problem. These saddles across the bridge here are in the wrong order. At some point, somebody must have taken them off and put them all back on randomly, probably not knowing that they need to be put on in a specific order. Alright, so let's talk Floyd Rose radius. If you look at the Floyd Rose from this angle here, these saddles may all look pretty much the same height, but they're not. They're actually made to match the radius of the neck. So your guitar neck is also, it's not flat when you look at it. It's actually got a slight radius curve to it. So with the Floyd Rose, saddles 1 and 6 are actually the lowest, 2 and 5 are medium, and the 3 and 4 saddles are the highest. This bridge that I'm working on here on the Washburn, all the saddles had been removed, mixed up, and put back on there. So I checked it with the radius gauge. I noticed they were all over the place. I took all the saddles off and I fixed that. No big deal. I'm going to re-intonate the whole thing anyways. So I'm going to be loosening these screws and moving the saddles around. I remember the first time I took apart a Floyd Rose, I didn't know about this difference in height for the saddles. So I took all the screws out, I took all the parts, put them into one pile, cleaned them up with some machine oil, reassembled it with new screws and new parts, and the Floyd Rose looked awesome, but it never played right. I had buzz and issues. I had to raise the bridge higher because the saddles weren't the correct height, and it was kind of a nightmare. I eventually switched out the bridge with an original Floyd Rose, so if you ever decide to take your Floyd Rose apart to service it, to do anything like that, make sure you set your saddles down in the exact same order that they came out, or else you're going to run into a problem with the radius not matching the radius of the neck. Now the guitar is restrung, the truss rod has been adjusted, and I've re-intonated the bridge, so it's all set up, ready to rock. Now this guitar is basically done and we're ready for the big reveal. But first, this episode of Trash to Thrash is sponsored by my friends over at SoCal Pedal Boards. We're actually going to be hosting a giveaway for this pedal board. Going to be giving away a Guitar Guts Kill Boost pedal, some kill switches, all kinds of stuff over on my Patreon next month. So if you want to win this pedal board, go sign up to my Patreon page. The link is down in the description below. It's the #1 way to support Guitar Guts and Trash to Thrash and everything else that I do. There's 2 tiers over there. There's a $10 tier called the CEO tier. And with the CEO tier, you actually get entered into a monthly raffle where I give away guitars. Normally it's a guitar. This time it's actually going to be for the pedal board, a pedal, and some other awesome stuff. So I'll have more details on the giveaway later. But go sign up to the Patreon page if you want to be part of it. SoCal Pedal Boards makes excellent pedal boards. They're handmade here in California, and they can be made custom to whatever you want. This is like their smallest, most basic board, but they make ones with cases. They make extra little features like holes in the side, nice routed edges so it's got some class, a handle, and this one was actually refinished by me. It's the Alien Blood Splatter one, and it's actually got LED lights in it, so it lights up, and it's an awesome little pedal board. If you want to win this pedal board and all the other awesome stuff I'm giving away, then go sign up to the CEO tier of my Patreon page to be automatically entered into the contest. If you don't want to sign up to this CEO tier, I understand. If you want a free way to get into the giveaway, then go subscribe to my gaming page. The link is down below. And also be sure to be subscribed to my Guitar Guts page. Send me a screenshot showing that you're subscribed to both YouTube channels, to my email address, or over at Instagram at Guitar Guts, and I'll put you on the list to be entered into the big giveaway. On Saturday, I'm going to be raffling off 2 Les Pauls. These things are awesome. They're custom shop ones that I built just for fun. They were kind of testers that turned out so cool that I had to give them away. It's a pair of Epiphone Les Pauls. One has white Crackle with blue to green burst underneath. The other one is a fluorescent orange with red coming through the Crackle. And both of them turned out so cool. It's like a fire and ice kind of thing. Both have EMG HZ pickups. They both have kill switches with LEDs. They're decked out. They're awesome guitars, and they can be yours if you go sign up to the CEO tier of my Patreon this Saturday, which is 48 hours from when this video is posting. I'm going to be doing the drawing for those 2 guitars. I've actually pushed it an extra week just to get the Trash to Thrash audience involved. So if you want to win one of these things, go sign up to the CEO tier of my Patreon, or go subscribe to my 2 Instagram channels, and send me a screenshot showing that you're subscribed to both of them. All right, guys, brace yourself for the reveal of the new Washburn Solar V. the first single humbucker, single volume, slime green satin Crackle. Alright guys, that's it for today. I want to thank you so much for watching the show. Be sure to hit the like button and leave your comments down below. Let me know what you thought about this insane Washburn Solar Flying V with slime green Crackle. I think this thing is awesome. All the links I mentioned today are down below in the description, over at my retro gaming channel, to the Patreon if you want to help support the show, my email address if you want to contact me about having a guitar commissioned or you want me to modify one of your guitars. Check out guitarguts.com. I just put up a bunch of new guitars for sale, so if you want to buy one of my creations, I actually have 3 or 4 of them up there right now at the time of this episode posting. And I also want to give a special shout out to SoCal Pedal Boards for hooking us up with a pedal board to give away on today's episode. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week. Rock on, my friends. If you want to have me modify your guitar, or you want to commission a full custom one, send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com. I have that listed down below too. And give me a description of what you're looking to have done. If you want me to build you a custom guitar, tell me what kind of guitar you want, some of the features. If you want to brainstorm together, I'm totally cool with that. I like coming up with ideas with you guys. Or if you have your guitar that you want to send in, send me some pictures of it and a description of what you want done to it. I'll write you back, send you a quote, and then you can ship the guitar in for me to mod it for you, film it to be on Trash to Thrash, and I'll ship it right back. I also offer payment plans, so if I'm rebuilding your guitar or doing a commission piece for you, it's going to take a couple months to do, and you can pay me as I'm working on it. I require a 50% down, and then you can just make the payments over the next couple months. Once it's paid off, I'll ship it out to you. I also accept trade-ins, so include that in your email. Let me know what you got. Send me some pictures of it. If it's something that I think I can turn it around and do something cool with, then I'll take it in and give you credit towards your own custom guitar or towards some modifications on another guitar you have. I'm super flexible. If you have any questions, just send me an email and ask me, mark@guitarguts.com.